Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Dolores Tarver and I'm a licensed psychologist here in Georgia. It is time for the Tea Time with Dr. Tarver is a wellness-based podcast. It is not intended to be a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health provider. Here we are on midterm Tuesday. You have made it. I'm sure that you are exhausted from the phone calls, texts, social media and TV ads, the leaflets, debates, and all of the conversations. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to be talking about election anxiety. Please stop trying to persuade me. So, I know that what ends up happening during this time of year is we cannot help it. We want to have conversations, we want to get information, even if we don't want to have conversations. People are having conversations around us. We may be getting text messages and emails, which forces us to be engaged. But also, sometimes we do want to be active in getting out to vote. We want to help people vote. We want to help dispel misinformation. We want to help with a campaign. We like to get that I voted sticker. But there can be a lot of things that come with election season. And so it's important for us to understand that we're going to get frustrated. We're going to get irritated. We're going to get anxious. And sometimes you can feel a little depressed and sad, even hopeless, given all of the things that you're seeing, right? So we've all been in a situation where we've had to deal with a frustration. Maybe it is you live in a town that attracts a lot of tourists, and so you get upset when all the tourists are in town because it makes it harder for you to get out and do things. Or maybe you're that person who's at the gym at the beginning of the year, and people that have been going to the gym even before New Year's are like, we can't wait till you all get tired and move on so we can have our machines back. Or maybe you're the type of person that have counted down the days until a friend or a relative left during a visit to your home. But no matter what it is, we've all experienced something that was uncomfortable. And it may have been something that was temporarily uncomfortable, but yet we're finding that it may be causing some longer term anxiety. One of the things that happens during election season is we get division. Family and friends can sometimes fall out about differences in political opinions. There could be conflict in work environments. You may even be hearing information at your faith based institutions when all of your life you've thought there should be a separation of church and state. There are news outlets that are constantly covering elections. We're getting poll information. I even get people call me in my office to talk to me about voting. So sometimes what happens is every time your phone rings or it dings or it vibrates, there is somebody introducing themselves to you or telling you to vote for a particular candidate. It gets to a point where you are really just overwhelmed with seeing all of that. It's like, can I get a break? When is this going to be over? And part of it is that the ads can get really dirty, especially as we get closer to the election, where it becomes more about a person's character or their medical issues or all of these things that we think, hey, this person may not be a good fit for this job. So let me deep dive into some background about them. What have they been doing? What gum did they chew when they were a teenager, right? And so whether it's positive or negative, we recognize that a lot of times is not necessarily true or relevant to their ability to do a job, but we're on that cycle, right? So we're wanting to find out as much information as we can. And so it makes us just obsess about trying to find out information, or it can make us not be trusting of people, right? So we all know that we have biases, and those biases lead us to make assumptions about people, not only the candidates, but people who would vote for the candidates. And so now we're thinking about this person who has been a good friend of ours, a colleague of ours, a church member of ours, and like, oh, you like that candidate? So maybe that's making me question some things about you. So election season can really bring out the best and the worst of us. And I think the other piece of it is it makes us feel like we don't have control over things because it's down to, okay, who wins in this state? What does that mean for us? Right? What's going to happen in the future? It can give us this sense of dread. What happens if I pick the wrong person? How could that impact someone else's life? And it makes us feel like a little bit hopeless about the future more than hopeful. We want to be able to be hopeful when we elect candidates that they're going to do a great job. They have the good intentions of the communities that they're serving at heart. But the reality is, most of the time, we don't feel that way. A lot of us have, in fact, said we're choosing between the lesser of two evils sometimes. And so all of these things that I just described, is election anxiety. So, what happens when we get inundated with misleading or inconsistent messages, or we have this desire to be good human beings, right? Some of us feel responsible for others. I want to make sure that I'm voting for people who are going to ensure we have safe schools, or that there'll be women's rights, or that there'll be justice in our community, that people won't be getting attacked and targeted, that we hold people accountable when they go outside of the law, that we're looking at gun laws and healthcare in the economy. And again, make the right choice, then what's going to happen? Am I going to be responsible for something? We can also feel fearful, just worried about negative outcomes, threats to our safety. We have people that are poll watchers, or so they call themselves poll watchers. They're watching mailboxes. They're watching you when you go up to the polls. Some of them are armed. Some people have not wanted to accept results from elections, and they've told people that they were going to harm them if things didn't turn out the way that they wanted. We know that things can get real dicey for people who are having campaign paraphernalia for somebody that another person may not be voting for or be interested in having as a candidate. And so then there can be altercations simply because you're wearing a button, or you have a mailer that someone sent to you and you're advocating for this person, or maybe you're just looking at the information and someone comes up to you. We get concerned that if we send our votes in the mail, that perhaps this won't be accepted, it'll be rejected, or it won't, it'll be in this mailbox, but it won't get where it's going. So we've got just a lot of narratives that have played over the past couple of years about not trusting the election process. So then we get obsessed about, okay, am I going to actually be able to cast my vote if I don't want to go to a poll, if I want to mail it in for whatever reasons, absentee voting, is it actually going to be counted, or is it going to be thrown out and I don't know? Am I going to be dropped from the poll, dropped from the list of being a registered voter? Am I going to go to my site the day on Tuesday, the day of election, and find out it's not my site? There are all of these different things that people have been concerned about. Are there going to be fair counting of these ballots? And so what happens is we'll just get obsessed. We'll hyper focus. Let me learn as much as I can in a way to kind of control, we think, to make sure that we're safe, to be able to give ourselves some peace of mind. It really doesn't. What it does is we just take a deep dive into seeing what everyone is saying, and that just gives us more things to ruminate about, think about over and over again. We find ourselves being on social media sites or news outlets, trading our sleep to get information, whether it's helpful or not. It's not going to add necessarily to anything. I've already made my decisions, but I find myself still doom scrolling, going through and seeing what other people are saying. I feel like my emotions are just all over the place. I'm going between trying to get control and then maybe I'm checking out. It's too much information and I want to take a break from it. So I get to the point where I have apathy now. How can I escape? It's everywhere. What can I do? Right. So this cycle of going from over controlled, under controlled, and it's absolutely exhausting. And so if you're wondering, well, what does this look like? How do I know if I have it? If you're continually checking the news for new information, new being that there's not a lot of information that's new after you've figured out about your candidates and their backgrounds and what you want in a candidate and who you're going to vote for, there's not really any new information. So continually checking just to see what has been updated, because you feel like you're going to miss something if you aren't plugged in. You find yourself reading the same news over and over. As you all know, there are a lot of news sites, but they report the same kinds of things. And so I'm going from ABC to CNN, to Fox, to NBC, all over the place, but I'm reading the same things. Like, how many times have I read this article from this same company? We're being drawn to articles that trigger negative emotions and just not able to stop reading. We like those sensationalized topics, those headings that we see. Okay, well, let me dive in and see what this is about. And we're continually wanting to talk about all of these things that I just mentioned, where we're fearful of. Who family and friends are voting for. Why are you voting for that person? We're trying to convince people to be on our side. We find ourselves going back and forth with people on social media. We're the one that's chiming in to every conversation. And then in addition to those kind of cognitive things and some of those behaviors, we also can experience just physical manifestations of the anxiety, which are our symptoms like our, chest pain, the tightness, tingling, difficulty breathing, sweaty hands, trembling, the arms and our legs bouncing, upset stomachs, right? Because a lot of times we carry our anxiety in our GI systems, difficulty sleeping, finding ourselves waking up, finding ourselves having dreams that are manifestations of things that we're fearful about, right? So what can we do? The short answer, as Saturday Night Live used to say, is stop it. Um, the long answer is, what am I going to do instead, right? So we want to make sure that we're having a variety of activities that we're engaging in. If you find yourself spending 85, 90% of your time looking at political news, then let's get some more diversity in terms of what we're doing. So let me divide that time up. Let me make sure that I'm doing activities that are physical, social, financial, environmental, that stimulate my mind in ways other than around election. There are other ways for us to get intellectual wellness other than through election things. Yoga, meditation, mindfulness, exercise, pets. Pets are great. Let me walk. If I don't have a pet, let me walk someone's pet or go with someone when they're walking their pet. Time in the water, time with friends, hobbies that are unrelated to any political types of events. Books for leisure, right? As I said, not all books need to be necessarily reading on the backgrounds of our candidates, but what is something that's going to nurture me, or about travel, or about ways that I can take care of myself. Music is a great one to put ourselves in a different space. Spiritual and religious engagement can be very helpful. I also encourage people to take fast from news and social media outlets, right? So if I am found that I've been on here for 7 straight days, in the same way that you want to take that break from exercising, let's take that break from that engagement in the news cycle, right? So I'll take a fast. I'll set an alarm that I can't get on here for 24 hours. And when you realize that you're starting to sweat and get uncomfortable and you're checking your phone, and you're getting paranoid that you may miss something, that's more of an indication, yes, time for me to take this break. But also, if you are checking, limit yourself to once a day and limit the amount of time you're spending. There is nothing that you can't learn within 30 to 60 minutes because, again, most of the news outlets are reporting very similar things. So if you've seen one, you've seen all the rest of them. And look at headlines from trusted news sources instead of deep diving into those stories that appear sensationalized. Um, Candidate for office was found to have 3 eyes, right? So let's not look at things that we know are either mudslinging campaigns or just to get your attention, and you find yourself reading it even though it's not going to add anything to you at all, and you know that it's likely not even from a legit source, and you question what the accuracy of that information. And that's another thing too, is being able to question the accuracy of information. Is this information coming in related to a bias that I have, so it confirms a perspective that I already have? Is this information coming in accurate, or am I taking the word of other people and I'm allowing that to drive my fear, right? So making sure that I'm getting accurate information. And that includes limiting your conversations. People have a lot of opinions. One of my coworkers used to say, opinions are like porch lights. Everybody has one, right? So just because everyone has one doesn't mean I need to hear everybody's, nor does it mean I need to share mine with everyone, right? So we want to make sure that we're limiting those conversations. We have so many other things that we can talk about. We do not have to talk about politics the whole season. Have political free spaces. This is a political free zone. So when you're at that Thanksgiving table or you're out with friends at a concert, you're enjoying some homecoming activities, you're doing some traveling, let that be a political free space. We're here for nurturing each other. We're here to pour into each other. We're here to be well. Let's not have conversations about things that can become emotionally charged. Challenge yourself about what new information you could actually learn and how it would change your mind, right? Because a lot of times we're looking at things and they literally are not going to add anything to us. So what could I be doing instead that is going to add something to me? Can it be that I need to start a hobby maybe that I put on hold because I've been so consumed during this election season that I've not done anything else? Maybe I need to go back to some of those things. Let me examine the biases I have and replace them with gratitudes or acts of kindness. Let me focus on doing things that I have control over. So I want to show up and be a good human being. Let me show up and do that in my community. I can pick up litter. A lot of areas have a lot of trash. These little babies are getting on the buses in the morning. I can be outside, making sure that children are safe. I can put light in spaces When I know that kids are going to be waiting by themselves, I can make sure that I'm there, that they have trusted people that they can be with. Maybe there's an older person in my neighborhood who doesn't get a lot of company that I can go and visit. There are a lot of people that need food and other resources right now. Maybe I can go and volunteer at an agency. And also just distraction techniques. I probably got some housework that I could be doing. Those socks aren't going to roll themselves. Or maybe a game night or a movie night. That'll be something, again, that's nurturing to me and that's fun and keeps me away from checking my phone or turning on the TV and checking the news stations. We know how we like to scroll and flip through. But also focus on problem solving, right? As opposed to the doom scrolling. So what do I have control over? Are there some things that I need to do for my own wellness? Do I need to take breaks? Do I need to recognize that I'm going to be seeing Uncle Jack this weekend and I know he's going to bring up this election? That's not something I want to talk about. So how can I navigate when I interact with Uncle Jack so that we don't go down that road? Hey, Uncle Jack, I love you. And we're going to have a good time this weekend. We will not be discussing politics. So go ahead and get that out with your friends before I see you, because if you bring it up, I am changing the subject or I am walking away. But I'm not going to get caught into that. And even when people try to bring you in things, ensuring that you don't get brought into that. Even your friends may have anxiety as well. And we think, okay, well, if I just talk about my anxiety, that's going to make it better. It actually doesn't make it better for me to vent. What is more helpful is that I focus on how can I solve a problem in this situation, right? And I like to be able to have a plan in place because that helps us. If I find myself ruminating and I'm focusing on things I'm fearful about, maybe outcomes I'm fearful about, let me affirm myself and say, whatever happens, I know I'll be able to handle it. Or let me think about what evidence do I have to support this fear. All right, so this person gets in office, that's it. We'll all be doomed and no one will be able to work and we'll be out of money, right? The likelihood of that happening, how realistic is that? What evidence do I have to confirm that that could actually be something that could happen? I don't. So let me think about some other things that are potential outcomes. Maybe I want to go and volunteer for an organization that doesn't get a lot of funding. Maybe I want to offer my services to people, so that's one less expense they'll have, right? So I can do something that allows me to solve a problem or potentially contribute in a positive way to something that I'm concerned about. So we turn that fear into action, right? So regardless of what happens, as these election results roll in over the next several days, because as you all know, we will not know the outcomes of every race on Tuesday night. Enjoy yourself. Take some time away from, instead of just sitting there looking at those poll numbers and not change that much over the course of the hours, finding your anxiety going up as if you're watching a game and it's a nail biter and your team could win or could lose. This next play depends on it. Instead of doing that, choose to spend quality time with other people. Choose to do something that's nurturing for yourself. In fact, I encourage you not to even look at the news on election night. Wait until the next day and look at the recaps. That's another strategy as well, so that you're not sitting there looking all night. It's not going to change. There's nothing you're going to be able to do about it overnight as those results come in. So instead, let me look the next day and see where we are. And then let me make sure if I am anxious about potential results, because it is absolutely true that my candidate may not win. And there is a person who I would prefer not to be in office that gets in office. So on the day after, let me put something in place that will allow me to rejuvenate myself. Maybe I want to go to the spa. Maybe I want to get a massage. Maybe I want to go and spend some time with grandma. I haven't seen her. She lights up every time she sees me. And it makes me feel so loved, right? So I put myself in the space with loving people. So that can be part of your plan as well, not just leading up to the election, but what am I going to do after the results come in? Whatever your choices are, make sure that you do, in fact, be well. Take good care.